Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Sheldon Epps, Senior Artistic Advisor at the historic Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., just penned the new book, My Own Directions, A Black Man's Journey in the American Theater. He joined me to discuss his journey from Broadway to Pasadena Playhouse in California, as well as his TV directing career from Frasier to Friends to Girlfriends, as his new holiday movie, Christmas Party Crashers, premieres on BET Plus tomorrow.
My name is Sheldon Epps, and the name of the book is My Own Directions.
And it's subtitled, it's A Black Man's Journey in the American Theater. It's McFarland Publishing, and it just came out a couple weeks ago. So first of all, where can we pick it up? I assume Amazon or anywhere, really, right?
Yeah, Amazon's the best way, Amazon Books.
Okay, cool. Actually, we should tell everyone that you're currently the Senior Artistic Advisor at Ford's Theater here in DC. So that's the DC connection, but you've done a ton of stuff at other acclaimed theaters across the country. But what inspired you to put pen to paper here finally?
Well, I've had a pretty distinctive journey as one of the few Black leaders of a major arts organization, Pasadena Playhouse in California. I was artistic director there for 20 years. And for many of those years, I was one of the only Black persons who was head of a major arts organization, or the only one in terms of theater companies. So I thought I had a pretty unique journey in the American theater and something to say. And with the rise of discussions about racism and race and equality and inclusion that took place in 2020, and the Black Lives Matter movement, I was motivated to sit down and write the book and tell my story and hope that it would be inspirational to others.
Great. Well, I would love to get to some of the, career highlights and even, some of the, social commentary that you're even talking about just now. But let's try to do it chronologically if we can. I mean, remind us where exactly, and you were born in Los Angeles, but did you actually grow up around there? Or was it New Jersey, I think?
Both. You're right. Both. I was born in LA, in Southeast LA, in Compton Hospital. I lived in Los Angeles until I was until I was 10 years old. And then I moved to Teaneck, New Jersey, which is right outside of New York City. And that's where I got in the habit of going to Broadway theater and then started doing plays in junior high school and high school. So that was the real beginning.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you, if there was any certain productions you remember from the, middle school, high school days. Did you star or direct any particular plays that we could give a shout out to the high school?
I did. I in Teaneck High School in my senior year, I actually played Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady.
You didn't say it, isn't it Henry Higgins?
No, I pronounced it the right way.
You did it the right. Oh, because you are him. So you're all about it.
I was the character.
Yeah, you're not. So you're not Eliza.
That was a particularly big starring role early in my career.
That's great. And you said you used to journey in, since you're in Jersey, you could journey in to see Broadway shows in New York City. Do you remember any formative ones that that you saw at an early age, during those trips into Broadway that just blew your mind?
I do. I'm dating myself now because you can go look up what year it was. But yeah, I saw Sammy Davis Jr. in Golden Boy. That was really an amazing performance. I saw Bailey in Hello, Dolly with Cab Calloway. And then a great thing is that I saw, when she was very young, I saw Leslie Uggams in Hallelujah Baby. And years later, I was able to work with Leslie several times after having this big teenage crush on her. So that was kind of great.
You got to see some real legends, including Sammy Davis Jr. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. All right, yeah. So this is, I assume during this time, you're falling in love with the theater. It's percolating as something you might want to do. But then, when do you say, all right, I'm going to make a go of this? Is it when you're at Carnegie Mellon for college, or when is the actual pivot? I'm doing this for my life.
It was really in my senior year of high school. Up until that time, I kind of wanted to be a trial lawyer, which I guess was also equally dramatic. Um, so in senior year, around about the time that I got to play Henry Higgins, I said, "Oh, I think I might be pretty good at this," and said that I wanted to make a career of it. And my parents were surprisingly supportive, but they did insist that I go to college and get a degree. So I applied to Carnegie Mellon University, which had a great training program, and went to school there as an acting major for 4 years and graduated from there.
Didn't you also do some stuff at Brooklyn Academy of Music, but the acting program?
Um, that was one of my last jobs as an actor. There was something called BAM Theater Company for a while, which was a very, very good theater company, kind of like Lincoln Center, except in Brooklyn.
Right, right.
I was in a production of Julius Caesar with Richard Dreyfuss and
Really?
Rene Auberjonois, George Rose. Yeah, very illustrious production. Actually, not a very good production, but a production that got a lot of recognition because it was the same time that Richard won his Oscar for Goodbye Girl.
Right, right, exactly. All right, cool. So that would have, I guess, Goodbye Girl, that would have been late 70s. So then as you moved your way into the 80s, you started directing some shows off Broadway in Blues in the Night. I guess it made it onto Broadway too, I guess, in what? 82
Yeah.
or something. But tell me about when you sort of embraced, because you did some acting before that, but when did you sort of embrace that I'm going to go into the directing route? Why did that take center stage for you?
Well, as I said, I studied as an actor, and I worked after college pretty frequently as an actor and made a living, and did the combination of soap operas and commercials, and then stuff off Broadway and regional theater, and had a pretty good working career, but just felt sort of unsatisfied and not totally nourished by it. So I started a theater company with 4 friends that I'd been to Carnegie with. And in our second year of running the theater company, the director, who got to be a pretty significant director himself, artistic director named Norman Rene, said, I really think you think like a director. You're a good actor, but I think you might be a better director. So why don't you try directing? Which was a generous thing for him to say. And I tried it and felt that I was good at it, and then started to work as a director. So I don't remember ever making a conscious decision to stop acting. I just sort of leaned into the path that seemed right for me at that moment in time and never looked back, and was always happy as a director.
Awesome. Tell me about Play On. I guess you conceived it, but it was like a Duke Ellington musical, and we're adapting Twelfth Night Shakespeare, that kind of thing, but reset in 40s Harlem. How did you get the idea to sort of do that 40s Harlem reset of that material, bring in the Duke Ellington? Because I think it and 3 Tony nods. Andre DeShields was in, all kinds of great stuff.
Yeah. This was when I was at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego. I was the associate artistic director at the Old Globe, and was encouraged by the artistic director, Jack O'Brien, to think of a big project to sort of put my mark on. And I'd always loved the play Twelfth Night. I'd been in the play twice, so I knew the play well. And Twelfth Night already has a lot of music in it. And I have to say, it was one of those, completely divine inspirations where I said, I think I want to do a version of Twelfth Night with Duke Ellington music and set it in Harlem in the 1940s with no rhyme or reason, just, one of those ideas that comes blazing to you like a light bulb. But I promised myself that I wouldn't do it unless I could really get the songs to tell the story. And because Duke Ellington's music is so vast and has so much breadth and expansiveness, I really felt that I found the songs that told the story. So I did a scenario of the story, and then worked with the playwright Cheryl West to create the book, and just did a huge amount of research to find the right songs to move the story along and define character. And it did very well.
Love it. Love it. All right. So then moving right along, then we're almost to the point in your career where you take over as Pasadena Playhouse. But before I even do that, because I know that was your longest tenure, and I want to save that for in 1 second. But before that, I know you started dabbling in some TV episodes too. You directed some episodes of what, like Smart Guy, Sister, Everybody Loves Raymond, and Frasier, and Friends, and all kinds of Girlfriends. My wife loves that show. What was it like sort of directing, behind the camera as opposed to on stage? Did you find it a natural transition, or was there a couple things where you're like, crap, I got to worry about close-ups now?
Part of it was natural because I was working, as you just pointed out, in situation comedy. And that's a little like doing a 22-minute one-act play that you rehearse and then you film in front of an audience. So the rehearsing part of it and working with the actors was very natural, but you do shoot it in front of an audience with 4 cameras. So that was something that took me a while to really get a grasp on. And I had to do a lot of observing over the course of about 2 years, watching other people do it, learning that part of the craft. But over the years, you do something often enough, you start to get good at it. So I was just lucky to have pretty major opportunities early on, first with Sister, as you mentioned, but then with Frasier, which I did a lot of. And
22 episodes or something of Frasier?
Yeah. And then 5 years as producer, director of Girlfriends.
Yeah.
So it was, I did have to learn the camera part of it, but working with the actors and telling the story was really based in my work in the theater.
So Girlfriends was probably, I guess if there was one TV show, that'd be the one that you at least, I guess you did like 59 episodes of that and also did some producing. So that I'd say that was probably the one that you were most involved in of all the shows. It wasn't a couple episodes here and there. That was diving right in.
Yeah.
Well, just explain, that experience, Tracy Ellis Ross and the whole cast. Like, do you look back and do you think it's sort of like an underrated show in hindsight? Do you think it got the credit it deserved? I mean, I know people talk, and my wife raves about it, but I mean, I feel like it's underrated.
I think that's true. I mean, it was on a smaller network. It wasn't on one of the major networks. It was a time when, frankly, Black shows just didn't get as much attention as a Friends or a Frasier did. So it didn't have a huge audience in its first run. What's interesting is that it's been on cable and streaming for 20 years now. And in that time, many people who didn't watch it initially have come around to it. So I meet very young girls now, who weren't even around or old enough to watch it when it was first on, who say, "Oh, I love that show. That's my favorite show," because they just discovered it last year or last month. So
on Netflix now.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's really the sign of a great show when it has that kind of staying power over, 2 decades.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you know what? And that's the good thing. I'm sure everything's a double-edged sword. I'm sure there's negatives, but that the positive of the streaming revolution for sure is a new generation getting to discover these older shows. Yeah. And now they're back. They think they're new. They think they're new. Well,
right. Or people who've loved the show in the original run can watch it over and over and over again, which people do.
Right, exactly. It's instead of waiting for the reruns on TV, now they can dial it up whenever they want. Great. And real quick before we move off of TV land, which Friends episodes did you do? Do you even remember, if you can't remember the titles, but like what was going on in the plot on any of them?
The most significant one was called the one where Rachel tells Ross when Rachel was pregnant and they were actually in the hotel room and she told Ross that she was pregnant and the baby was his. Significant because she told him right before the act break, and the laugh was so big that they put the act break there. And when we came back from the commercial, they were still laughing at his expression. So that was the biggest one. I also did one called the one with the soap opera party.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then there was another one, I can't remember the title of it, but when the baby just wouldn't stop crying and was driving Jennifer Aniston crazy.
Well, you got to be a part of TV history with that one. That's
Yes.
incredible.
Yes, indeed.
Yep. So Friends, and then Girlfriends, and then all right, and then let's. I think we dabbled in the TV conversation long enough. Let's bring it back to Pasadena Playhouse without any further ado, because I mean that's gosh, you were there for what 97 to 2017 or something like that. So like two
20
decades.
years.
20
20
years,
years.
yeah. So how did they get in contact with you, and just dish on how fruitful and amazing of a journey that was there.
Well, I first directed there in the early 90s. I did a play there right before I went to the Old Globe. And then I was at the Old Globe for 4 years, and I would come up from San Diego to LA to direct at the Playhouse during that whole time. And just about the time that I was ready to leave the Old Globe, um, this position opened up at Pasadena Playhouse. And because I'd been working there sort of annually, they extended the invitation for me to come and work. And I was already planning to move to LA. So it was kind of synchronicity that all those things came together at the right time. And as I was planning a move to the Los Angeles area, I was offered the job. And I love the theater and think it's a beautiful facility. And I think LA has a great theater community, a great unsung theater community. So it's just a place where I thought I could make a difference and really build something, which I was able to do.
You definitely did. Didn't you do it at one point there, a big successful production of Fences with Lawrence Fishburne and Angela Bassett? What was that like? I mean, that's a star-studded version right there.
It was indeed. I still sometimes pinch myself to see if that really happened, because it was just a matter of sort of divine timing that Lawrence Fishburne was available, Angela Bassett was available, Wendell Pierce, who's on Broadway right now, and Death of a Salesman was also in that production, Orlando Jones. So as I said, it was just great timing that here we had the opportunity to do one of August Wilson's best plays, and all of those tremendous actors wanted to play those roles and were available at the same time. So it was really a theatrical explosion of talent on the stage, I think.
Yeah, I would say, and you're trying to orchestrate that explosion at the same time. Well, there's so many. I mean, you did 12 Angry Men and so many different shows at Pasadena Playhouse. Do you have a I know people don't want to play favorites, but I'll ask you anyway. Do you have one that stands out in your mind for, as just personally gratifying or particularly successful, got the best feedback? I don't know. Give me something to run in this piece.
Well, certainly that production of Fences, absolutely, which broke records at the time as the best-selling straight play in the history of the theater. We did a production of Play On there at a time when the theater needed a big hit, and it was a big hit. I did a production of Blue, and that was kind of extraordinary because it had Phylicia Rashad and Diane Carroll in the same cast. So, two amazing icons of American theater in the same production. And then that production of 12 Angry Men that I did, which I later did at Ford's Theater as well, was really significant and wonderful.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for doing the segue for me. But yeah, Ford's Theater is where us in DC now we get to enjoy your extreme, amazing talents. When were you appointed? I guess it was 2020 during the whole pandemic. You became senior artistic advisor at Ford's. What was it like getting tapped to be at such a it's such a historic place. I mean, needless to say, Lincoln and everything the rest. But man, it's also just artistically, it's a great theater too. So just talk about how big of an honor it is to be steeped in such history, and now you get to add your own page to that history.
Yeah, well, certainly there's very few theaters in America, in the world, which have such an illustrious history and significant history because of the events that we all know that took place there. But really, for me, what drew me to it is that it is a living theater. It's not a museum theater. It's not about what happened, over 100 years ago. It's about what's happening on the stage right now. And with Paul Tedrow and the artistic team there, there's a real focus on artistic excellence, on diversity, on being adventurous, which many people don't consider the theater that, but it is. And of really trying to do work at the top of the heap, at the top of the theatrical game. So all of those were the things that attracted me to the position. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to work there and to support other artists and help create new audiences.
You mentioned that it's adventurous and also, trying to be more and more diverse every day. Talk about how those are important initiatives for you. I mean, my buddy Craig Wallace plays Ebenezer Scrooge there now after Ed Giro did it for many years. And I mean, I think the theater is putting their money where their mouth is in terms of diversity. But how do you see where it stands and where do you want to take it?
Oh, I think that's absolutely true. After all the work I did at Pasadena Playhouse to really kind of make it a model of diversity, I wasn't interested in going to a theater that was beginning that project or beginning the focus on that. Ford's Theater was already very much involved in that. As I said, Paul Tedrow completely is devoted to that. So I was just coming to further something that's already in process, not to begin something, but to keep it going, to make it evolve. We have a playwrights commissioning program for BIPOC playwrights, as well as the programming choices, which all focus on representing artists and the community of DC in all of its breadth, all of its colors.
Absolutely. And not to get too artistic with you, but hey, who am I talking to? You're Sheldon Epps. Of course we can go here. Let's get symbolic and transcend a little bit. Let's next level this thing. Is that tie that into sort of we don't want to speak for Abraham Lincoln, but the idea of a diverse theater thriving. I don't know. Is there a way we can tie in the history of this country and where we are now in the 21st century through that lens at all? Do you got anything, anything percolating in that beautiful brain of yours?
Right. I mean, isn't it significant that the theater, the building, the theater that honors Abraham Lincoln, who fought and died, in fact, for racial equality, should be continuing to push for equality and diversity in the art of the theater. I mean, what's more appropriate for that theater than to continue the mission that Lincoln actually died for?
It's actually, that's perfect. That's perfect. Well, thanks for all the work you're doing. Before we run, we really should plug the book one last time. It's called My Own Directions, A Black Man's Journey in the American Theater. If they heard a brief version of it in this interview, but there's way more to the story if they pick up the book. But is there anything they'll find out about you? Maybe if there's longtime colleagues that know and love you, but maybe they pick up the book. What are they going to find out about you that maybe they didn't know about you? Or, what will they pull from those pages?
Well, sometimes when you're lucky enough to have a very, very blessed and successful career, and to run a theater company for a long time, people start to think that it was easy, that the journey was easy, that things just automatically fell into place. And I think the book reveals that it wasn't easy. It was tough. It was often angering and frustrating and trying. And many times when I thought maybe I should just give it up, but I kept going. So I think it will be helpful to people to know that behind the brightest stars, there are also clouds, perhaps, and to know that being successful in the arts is never an easy journey. It takes dedication and passion and talent, but also hard work and, the ability to keep yourself going.
Well, thanks for keeping it going, and we hope you keep it going for a long time here at Ford's and bring some of that that Playhouse magic over here to DC. That we thank you so much for doing this. And we invite everyone to pick up the book and come see the shows at Ford's and all the stuff you got coming up there.
Yes, please do. Shout Sister Shout is coming up in the spring, a brand new musical about Rosetta Tharpe. It's going to be full of great music and great singers and performers. So everybody come out and see it.
Great. Hey, Sheldon Epps, thanks for doing this. This was great getting to meet you and catch up with you. And you're a legend of the theater, so we're lucky to have you on. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Great to talk to you. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.
Explain your DNA on 10 cases, man.
You're inside the police interrogation room with the alleged Potomac River rapist.
I'm not guilty on any of this stuff.
So calm, so reasonable. Could this be the man who terrorized women for 9 years before murdering a brilliant scientist 2 decades ago? Experience one of the most fascinating true crime podcasts available. Join crime reporter Paul Wagner for Unknown Subject, Season 3 of WTOP's American Nightmare series. Search American Nightmare Podcast on all podcast platforms.
I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.